This latest movie is a single setting movie, but it's no Green Room.
What are you doing in there?
So hey guys, this is the latest episode of Owen Sound, and today we're talking about High Rise. This is the new film from Ben Wheatley, who directed the ABCs of Death, Sightseers, and then a lot of TV episodes, including like Doctor Who and a couple British television shows. He's mostly known as a British director. This film stars Tom Hiddleston, Elizabeth Moss, Jeremy Irons, Luke Evans, Sienna Miller, and a handful of other actors who all come in various parts. Basically, the plot of this movie is that this high-rise building is basically divided in class systems, kind of a la Snowpiercer, kind of a vertical Snowpiercer, if you will, and it kind of devolves into this weird Lord of the Flies-esque class versus class system as the power starts to malfunction and food starts to run out in the building, and nobody really wants to leave. So I think we're going to go right into it and talk about the ups and downs, for lack of a better word, of High Rise. Looking to Tom Hiddleston's performance, he really acts more as a portal for the audience to kind of see through, and I don't really feel like he does that much in the way of like strong acting in the movie. And overall, I just didn't really attach to his character that much by the end of the film. Looking to Jeremy Irons' architect character, he's kind of one of the most intriguing in the film. Not the most intriguing, but he's one of the most intriguing, although he's just really not given enough screen time. This also goes for Elizabeth Moss's character, who plays the wife of Wilder, and she is interesting in the movie and has some really interesting scenes and really like kind of heart-wrenching moments, but she's also just not given enough screen time, as there's just so many characters in this movie to get through that the movie really doesn't give that much time to any of them. Now, Luke Evans Wilder is probably the most interesting character in the movie, but given that he's almost given the slightly antagonistic protagonist role in the movie, he's not given as much focus as he should be, even though given that he is kind of one of the more interesting and complex characters of the movie, as he's messing up and not being the best person, but he's like looking for what is right, and he's trying to solve what is going on in the high rise, much more than Tom Hiddleston is. And it really gives kind of more drive to his character throughout the movie. Now, the setting of the movie, the high-rise itself, is a pretty interesting setting, and it's used to pretty decent effect, although you don't always feel like you have a sense of the high-rise, which may be kind of the point of it. But I found, unlike in other movies like, let's say, The Shining, where the lack of sense of the building kind of feeds into the whole horror and kind of haunting kind of supernatural aspect. In this, it's very science-based, and the fact that the high-rise just kind of feels like you're always on a couple floors almost makes it seem like it could have been like a 3 to 4 story building. Going to some style of the movie, the visuals are pretty great, and there's some specific moments in the movie that are very stunning, including some slow-mo falling sequences and a couple party scenes, and there's a couple really great visual moments, including a moment where Tom Hiddleston's in a elevator, and his reflection is just kind of going on forever in the background as he thinks over what's happening, and it's this kind of really powerful shot, but there's not enough of these moments to really give it such a great like send up as a movie I talked about recently, like A Bigger Splash, which is just kind of visually gripping from start to finish. Now, going to the soundtrack of the movie, there's some really interesting musical moments and cues here and there, but I think overall, in terms of the cool musical moments of the movie, there's actually 2 versions of ABBA's SOS, not Head Over Heels like I messed up last time, but this is going to show up twice in the movie. Neither of them is the original, and one of them is a string concerto version of it that you would have to know the song to recognize, which I had to like elbow the people I was with to point out that it was ABBA. And then later on in the movie, there's I believe it's a Portishead cover of it that comes on late in the movie. That is a really driving moment, although the lack of kind of soundtrack and like non-diegetic / score music throughout the rest of the movie makes this moment almost feel kind of out of place near the end of the movie. Like you understand something is clearly going to happen when they're using this and kind of dimming down the actual audio of the movie, but it just kind of feels out of place despite how awesome this cover of the song is. Now, the biggest pro of this movie is I guess what you would call the high concept feel of the movie, for lack of a better word, I guess. But just kind of the sense of this class-based high-rise, instead of all the parts of the building really being the same. Just how the floors are kind of tiered, and the higher you go, the more class, and sometimes lack of class you'll see. But it's an interesting concept in this class system and how it works, much like in Snowpiercer, which I would say is kind of the better version of this film. Really works well together, and just the overall idea of kind of this almost social experiment of a living experience is a really interesting concept, and it could have worked a lot better had they kind of focused what they were going to do with the plot a bit more than kind of people constantly grasping out. Now, the biggest con of the movie kind of ties into this pro of the movie, and it's really just the sense of mystery and how it really doesn't deliver by the end of the movie. The tower is this really interesting building, and I think it would have been more interesting to see it kind of stretched out over a TV series, say, but it really doesn't grab you by the end of the movie, and the sense of mystery is kind of not really what you would expect it to be. It kind of just seems a little hopeless and a little kind of not as mysterious or jaw-dropping as you would expect, which is, I guess, slightly more realistic, but it just doesn't feel that strong by the end of the movie. And just a quick note, the novel that this is based on is called High Rise, and it's by J.G. Ballard. So overall, I want to give High Rise a 6, maybe 6.5, but I think I'm going to keep it at a 6 because overall I felt this movie, unlike A Bigger Splash, didn't kind of grow on me the more I thought about it. Overall, I don't feel the cast is very likable at all. Even Tom Hiddleston is kind of so-so, as you kind of feel disconnected from him, as he is kind of disconnected from the world, as they point out over the course of the film. And overall, the visual style doesn't do enough, and even the audio and just everything going on with the style doesn't really do enough. Even going to like a flash forward that they give you at the start that really lets you kind of know generally what's going to happen by the end of the film, with a little bit of misdirection, but not enough to really make it seem like they didn't kind of give you the end of the movie by the start. So overall, I felt like this movie just really didn't do it for me. If you like Tom Hiddleston, you'll probably like this movie, but it really just feels like a stretched out episode of a TV show, even going to something like a Doctor Who episode that Ben Wheatley has probably directed something similar to this in real life. So that's my review of High Rise. I hope you enjoyed it. I might have to just recommend the novel to you, as I wish I had read that instead of watching the movie. But if you liked this video and want to see more of my stuff, you can like and subscribe, and you can check out everything else I do, including my movie podcast. And yeah, thank you for watching, and you'll see me in a couple days.